I've been driving trucks for close to 18 years now, seen all kinds of weird things out on the road, animals that move like they shouldn't, fog banks that show up out of nowhere, people walking along empty highways at 3 in the morning, but this thing, what happened outside of Craig, Colorado, this one stuck with me. Still does. It was late October, maybe 3 days before Halloween. The air had that dry chill to it where the cold isn't sharp yet, just creeping in slowly. I was hauling a load of frozen food out of Salt Lake, headed for St. Louis. Tight run, but I'd done it before. Easy miles if you timed your brakes right and didn't let your eyes get too heavy after midnight. I was running solo that night, which I actually prefer. No one fiddling with the radio, no awkward small talk during diner stops, no waiting around for your co-driver to wake up, just you, the hum of the wheels, and whatever's out there in the dark. I'd taken Highway 40 east, cutting across a lot of empty space. Most truckers avoid that route late at night, especially the stretch between Dinosaur and Steamboat Springs. Too isolated, no shoulders, no real service, one flat or busted light, and you're out there alone for hours. But I liked it. The quiet helped me think, made me feel like I was in control. It was about 11:15 p.m. when I passed through a little ghost of a town called Maybell. Not much, they're just a gas station, a few boarded up houses, maybe 10 streetlights total, and most of those barely working. That part of the drive always felt like crossing into another country, like the rest of the world was pausing and something older was still moving beneath the surface. I topped off fuel in Craig, then hit the highway again, heading southeast. The plan was to get through the Rabbiteers Pass before the weather changed. Forecast had mentioned snow up higher, but nothing urgent. Clear skies for the most part. No traffic, just the usual static on the CB and my thermos keeping the coffee warm enough to not taste like regret. The cab of the truck felt like my second home by then. I had my little routines, my seat adjusted just how I liked it, a blanket tucked behind the passenger seat, flashlight clipped to the visor, and a little wooden cross my daughter made for me hanging from the dash. It would swing a bit when I hit a bump, catch the dash lights just right. Normal night. At least it started that way. I remember thinking how quiet everything felt, not just peaceful, too quiet, like the world had leaned in to listen to something, and it hadn't come yet. There was no moon that night, or if there was, it was buried behind clouds I couldn't see, just black on black. My high beams barely touched the road ahead. It felt like I was driving into the edge of something. Still, I didn't feel nervous, not yet. I didn't know that just a few miles down that highway, something was going to start following me, something I couldn't explain then, and still can't now. The road was dead quiet, just me, the occasional rustle of wind, and the dull rhythmic drone of tires on pavement. I'd made it maybe 20 minutes out from Craig, climbing into the more remote curves where guardrails start getting scarce and the shoulders disappear altogether. I was sipping from my thermos when I first noticed it, just a flicker in my peripheral vision, something faint in the upper right-hand part of the windshield. I thought maybe a plane at first, a blinking aircraft, light reflecting off low clouds, but then I looked again. There was no plane, no blinking, just a soft glow. Orange-white, not quite headlights, not a star. It hovered up on the ridgeline above the road, distant enough that I couldn't make out a shape, but close enough that it shouldn't have been there. I slowed down, a little, instinctively flicking off the high beams and switching to lows. The ridge was maybe 300 yards up a steep slope to the right. Trees thinned out along that stretch, just scattered pine and bare brush. Nothing tall enough to block much of the view. I stared at the light again, still there, not moving, not blinking, just sitting there, quiet and strange. It looked wrong. In a dramatic way, nothing flashy, but it felt out of place, like it didn't belong in the natural order of the landscape, like seeing a lamppost in the middle of a cornfield, or a door standing open in a brick wall with no building attached to it. I shook it off, told myself it was probably some kind of equipment or a hunting camp setup left on overnight. I'd seen solar lanterns rigged to trees before, odd, but not paranormal. I gave it one more glance, leaned back in my seat, and drove on. Didn't even tell myself I was uneasy. Not yet. But about 5 minutes later, I saw another one. This one was closer. It was lower on the slope, maybe halfway down toward the highway. Same glowfaint, unnatural, like light from a bulb, not a fire, and it didn't sway or blink. It just hovered, silent. I slowed again. My hand moved instinctively to the CB, but I didn't key up. I knew there wasn't anyone out here to talk to anyway. That stretch is a dead zone for CB chatter unless someone else is right on your tail. And I hadn't seen a single set of headlights behind me since Craig. That's when something finally nudged my stomach. That feeling real truckers know it. When something doesn't compute. When your gut says you're seeing something your brain can't place yet. I kept telling myself, it's gear, maybe a drone, maybe a verse doing night runs. But there were no tire tracks in the shoulder gravel, no hum of engines, no sound at all, and still, no movement. They didn't seem to be lights carried by anyone. They were just suspended there, floating. I hit the next curve, which put the slope directly beside me. Trees closed in tight on the left, and the shoulder dropped into a steep ravine on the right. That's when I saw it again, a third light, except this one wasn't on the slope, this one was just behind me. I caught it in the side mirror, faint, orange-white, hovering about 12 feet off the ground, dead center in the lane behind my trailer, like a slow floating bulb following me. I tapped the brakes, not enough to stop, just enough to see if it would react. It didn't, no bounce, no swerve, it just kept pace. It wasn't a vehicle. I adjusted the mirror, no beam trailing from the light, no shape connected to it. Just that same steady glow. I turned down the music, cracked the window. No engine sound, and that's when I knew something wasn't right. I've driven through whiteouts in Wyoming. I've dodged wildlife the size of sofas at night. I've had weirdos follow me for miles hoping to pick a fight at a truck stop, but this was different. This thing didn't feel like someone trying to mess with me. It felt like something. Watching it followed me for maybe 10 miles. I didn't stop. I didn't even slow again, just stared at the road, tried not to keep looking. In the mirror, tried not to let the knot in my stomach climb into my throat. And then it vanished. Just gone. No fade out, no swerving away. 1 second it was there, the next it wasn't. But the weirdest part, the world felt too quiet after it disappeared. Like something big had just stepped off the stage and no one knew what to do next. Even my trucks. Engine noise felt thinner. Distant. I kept driving, didn't touch the radio, didn't sip the coffee, just focused on the next curve and the next, and the next. I was maybe 15 minutes outside of Hayden when I saw a road sign I should have recognized, except it looked wrong. Bent. Twisted slightly. Not from an impact, more like it had melted and reset at a weird angle. It pointed down a side road I'd never noticed before. County Road 13B. I know. That road doesn't exist, not on that stretch. I pulled over, not hard, just enough to let my tires crunch onto the gravel shoulder, hazard lights blinking. I sat there, staring at that warped green sign under my brights. And that's when the glow came back. But this time, it wasn't behind me, it was up ahead, hovering just above the tree line, moving sideways, smoothly, like it was skimming through the air, and then it stopped, hung in place, and another light joined it, then a third, all three aligned in a triangle, above the treetops. Maybe 40 feet off the ground, dead silent. I turned off the headlights, and the moment I did, they shifted. The 3 lights rotated, slowly, like they were circling each other, still hovering, still soundless, like they were coordinating or communicating. I can't explain the way that hit me. It wasn't just fear. It was a knowing. I wasn't supposed to be seeing this, and they knew. I was watching. I slammed the headlights back on and gunned it. Got the truck back in gear and didn't let off the gas until I was 10 miles farther down the line, where the road started to feel familiar again. When I finally checked the mirror, there was nothing there, but I kept looking over my shoulder for the next hour straight, because in the dark, in places like that, some things follow you even when they're not visible anymore. I tried telling myself it was over, that maybe I'd driven through some weird atmospheric event, or stumbled across a military test flight, or even had a waking dream, anything I could explain in daylight terms. I tried, but my gut knew better. Something had seen me that night, and it didn't lose interest just because I put a few miles behind me. About an hour after the lights vanished, I hit the outskirts of Steamboat Springs, a real town again, streetlights, civilization, other cars. It should have felt like a relief, but it didn't. I pulled into a 24-hour gas station on the south side of town. Not for fuel, I still had a half tank. I just needed to see people, real people, movement, sound, normalcy, something to tell my brain that I wasn't stuck inside whatever I'd just driven through. The guy inside was maybe 20, half asleep behind the counter with earbuds in, didn't even look up when I walked past. I bought a Gatorade, lingered in the snacks aisle just to feel the fluorescent lights on my skin. Even they felt wrong, buzzing too low, shadows stretching too far. On my way out, I noticed something that stopped me cold. A pickup truck, parked by the side of the lot, mud splattered, no plates, and just behind it, in the trees off the far edge of the lot, a faint glow, not bright, not obvious, but there. I walked around to get a better angle. Gone. Just shadows brush, the faint sound of something creaking in the wind. I got back in my cab, locked the doors, and kept driving. I figured I'd push through the rest of the mountain pass before I took a real break, make it into Kremling by 3 a.m. at the latest. My schedule could afford a 2-hour nap if I needed it, but the whole way there, I couldn't stop checking the mirrors. Nothing, just empty road. Still, I felt like I was being watched, not by someone in the truck, not from behind, more like from above. Like the whole rig was moving through something too big to see. Somewhere near Tapunas, I noticed the CB started acting up. Channel 19 had been dead all night, normal for this route, but then static kicked in, not just white noise, rhythmic, like a pulse. 1 beat, 2, silence. Then again, I turned the volume up. The pattern didn't change. It wasn't natural interference. I've heard CBS glitch in every way imaginably electrical storms, altitude interference, microwave towers nearby. But this was deliberate, like a slow-coded tap. And then I heard something else. Not speech, not music, just breathing. Low, shaky, like someone holding the mic too close and whispering just beneath the threshold of speech. I yanked the mic down, flipped channels fast, nothing but static on 3, 6, 14, even channel 1. When I flipped back to 19, silence, dead. Air. I left it off. My heart was racing now, hands slick against the wheel. I checked the mirrors again, still nothing, but every time I turned my eyes back to the road, I had this crawling feeling in the back of my head, like something was almost in view just outside my periphery. I crested another bend in the road and came down into a long, wide curve. When it hit me, the world had gone too quiet again. No wind, no bugs, not even the faint background hum of the engine vibrating in the frame, just stillness. And then, a shape appeared in the distance. At first, I thought it was another truck coming toward me, headlights rising over the curve, but no, the lights were too high and they weren't on the road. They were above it, maybe 20, 30 feet up, gliding in sync with my speed. 2 glowing orbs, orange-white, not bouncing like headlights, not flickering like fire. They just hovered and moved. Stayed with me for nearly a full mile. I slowed. They slowed. I accelerated. They kept pace. It felt like they were mirroring me then. Just like before, they disappeared. Instant. No fade. I floored it. My hands were shaking now. I turned the music back on loud. Anything to drown out the creeping. It sensed that something was crawling up my back. I kept going. Didn't stop. Didn't even blink too long. Just stared at the road and counted down the miles to Kremling. About 5 miles out. My headlights caught movement near a turnout. I thought it was a deer at first, but when I got closer, I saw it was a person, a man, standing just off the shoulder, still like a statue, facing the road. He didn't flag me down, didn't gesture, didn't even blink. He just stood there, hands by his sides, staring. As I passed, I got a better look. His skin looked pale, not like a ghost, just wrong, like something that had been underground too long. Clothes were baggy, dusty. He didn't move an inch. My foot hovered over the brake pedal, but I didn't stop. I could end. Single quotes too. Something in my gut screamed that if I pulled over, I wouldn't get back in the cab. As I checked the mirror again, I saw him vanish. Just gone. No step, no step, no fade. 1 second he was standing there. The next, empty road. That was when I finally broke. I hit the interstate and didn't look back. Made it to Kremling just before 3 a.m. and pulled into a tiny rest stop off the main drag. It wasn't much, just a gravel lot and 2 flickering lights on crooked poles. But I didn't care. I needed to breathe. I shut off the engine, sat in the cab, let the silence press in around me, and just as I leaned back to try and close my eyes, the trailer rocked. Not hard, just a soft sway, like someone leaned into it from behind. Then it rocked again. I bolted upright. Engine off, keys still in hand. The trailer swayed once more, then stopped. I waited, held my breath, didn't move. Then came the light. Orange, slow, from the back of the trailer. Not a spotlight, not headlights, just that same steady glow. I reached slowly into the passenger seat and grabbed my flashlight, took the longest breath of my life, and stepped out. The night air hit me like ice. Gravel crunched under my boots. I walked to the rear of the trailer. Nothing, no lights, no footprints, no noise, just wind. I turned the flashlight on, swept the area. Still nothing. But when I looked down at the dirt near the tires, I saw 3 perfect circles burned into the gravel. Each about 6 inches wide. In a triangle, still warm to the touch. I didn't sleep that night, didn't even close the cab door again. Just sat there with my flashlight, watching the shadows stretch across the lot, waiting for the glow to return. It didn't. But I knew whatever it was, it hadn't left. It was just waiting by 4:30 a.m. I couldn't sit still anymore. I'd been parked in that rest area off the side of Highway 44 over an hour, the truck engine off, my coffee long cold. I'd shut down the cab lights and just sat there in the dark, flashlight across my lap like a lifeline, my back stiff from tension. The strange thing was, nothing was happening anymore, but that's what made it worse, because I was waiting for it. Is a certain kind of dread you feel when you're on your own, miles from any other human being, and you just know something's watching you. I don't mean paranoia. I mean that bone-deep evolutionary fear that crawls up from your spine and sets your brain on fire. Your instincts know before your eyes do, and mine was screaming. I must have checked the mirrors 50 times. Every few seconds I was craning my neck, scanning the brush beyond the lot, my eyes stinging from being open too long. The high beams, off, dash lights dimmed, radio off. Not even the CB was crackling anymore, just silence. But silence wasn't normal, not out here. Even in the most remote stretches, you hear something. The wind moving the treetops, bugs tapping the glass. A distant engine, something, but now, nothing. It was like the world had been muted. That's when I felt the shift. At first I thought it was just my ears playing tricks, pressure, but then I realized it was the air itself. It got heavier, denser, like the atmosphere had thickened, pressing down on the truck like a physical weight. My ears popped, and then the dash lights flickered, just for half a second, that then again, flicker back on. That's when I knew it wasn't over. I reached for the ignition, trying to bring the truck to life. Nothing, just a click. No turnover. I tried again, click, dead. The CB kicked in out of nowhere, full volume static, and then a fractured voice broke through. Not clear, distorted, almost like someone trying to speak through a storm of interference. Right there, signals breaking, looky. Then it cut, hard, no fade, dash out, just flat static. Then silence. My hand hovered over the mic, but I didn't move. My whole arm felt like it weighed 100 pounds. Like the air was resisting me. I could feel the weight of my own heartbeat in my throat. That's when the glow came back. It didn't rise gradually like headlights. It didn't flash like an engine spark. It poured in like the cab had been dropped underwater and something orange and otherworldly was leaking through the glass. I turned toward the passenger side window and saw it bright and silent, coming from the trees across the gravel lot. It wasn't a beam. It didn't cast shadows. It just was. Like fog that glowed from within. And then the trailer rocked, not the subtle sway from earlier. This was different. Thud. The kind of impact you feel through the seat, through the bones in your chest. Then again, thud. The truck groaned. A low metal flexing sound, like something heavy was moving on the back end. But it wasn't footsteps. It didn't sound like walking. It was intentional. I grabbed the flashlight. My hand shook as I flipped it on, but I didn't open the door. Not yet. I just sat, frozen in place, watching my mirrors. That's when I caught movement in the side mirror. A shape, tall, slender, moving toward the cab from behind the trailer. I ducked instinctively. My heart hammered so loud I could hear it in my ears. I held my breath. Every part of me screamed to run, but I had nowhere to go. I was locked in a dead truck, in the middle of nowhere, with something walking toward me. I waited. Nothing. Then a creak. Above me. The roof. The cab dipped slightly, weight settling on it. My blood ran cold. Whatever it was had climbed on top. And then tap. Glass. I looked up through the upper part of the windshield. I saw it. A hand. Long, unnatural fingers, stretched wide and flat against the glass. No visible joints. No fingernails. Just smooth, pale skin. The skin twitched slightly like it was feeling the shape of the window. Then a second hand appeared, both flattened. No sound. No steam from breath. Just contact. I froze. Couldn't scream, could barely breathe. Something in my brain started to detach. I remember thinking, if I move, if I make a sound, this thing will come through the glass. I don't know how long it stayed there. Could have been 10 seconds. Could have been a minute. Then it began to move slowly, dragging its fingers upward, then lifting them off one by one. I reached down, inch by inch, toward the steering wheel. Didn't even think, just instinct. My thumb pressed the horn. Blaarrrrrrmm. The blast shattered the stillness like an explosion. The windshield vibrated. My own ears rang. And then, it was gone. The hands vanished. The pressure lifted. The glow snapped out like a switch in that same instant. The dash lights popped back on. The engine clicked and turned over. It was like whatever was holding the truck in place had let go all at once. I didn't wait. I threw it into drive and punched the gas. Tires spitting gravel. my back wheels swinging slightly as I pulled out of that lot like my life depended on it. And maybe it did. The road ahead blurred. Trees zipped past. I was gripping the wheels so tight my knuckles ached. Every muscle in my arms burned from holding still so long I didn't even notice the tears running down my face until they hit my shirt collar. 10, maybe 15 minutes down the highway. I finally eased up. I checked the mirrors and my stomach dropped. There it was. A single light, hovering on the far side of the horizon. Not chasing, just watching. I blinked. It shrank, dimmed, and then blinked out by the time the sun started coming up. I was rolling into Granby. It looked like any other small town at dawn, quiet, peaceful, a few trucks heading out, a mum walking her kid across the gas station lot. Normalcy. I pulled into a diner lot and just sat there, engine still on, exhaust clouding the cold morning air. I didn't go inside. I didn't want food. I didn't want people. I just needed to sit where it felt safe, real. I must have stayed there 20 minutes before. I finally got out to check the rig. Trailer looked fine from a distance, but when I climbed up to the back, I found them dents, not scratches, not scuff marks, actual, deep-set dents in the metal, long and narrow, 5 of them, spaced like fingers, pressed into the roof, just above the cab. My throat tightened. I dropped down and circled the side. In the dust near the steps impossibly clear was a symbol, 3 perfect circles in a triangle formation, about 6 inches across, pressed into the dirt like branding. I touched them, still warm. I stepped back, heart in my throat. Whatever had been out there, it hadn't just passed by, it had touched my truck, stood on it. Left something behind. I didn't tell anyone that morning. I could have walked into the diner and sat down across from some old-timer sipping black coffee and said, "Hey, you ever seen something in the sky that wasn't supposed to be there?" Maybe he would have told me a story. Maybe he'd laugh it off. But I didn't ask. I couldn't, because I knew how it would sound. Hell, I wasn't even sure I believed it yet. I stayed in that parking lot until the sun was high enough to warm the windshield. When I stepped out of the cab again, I circled the truck one more time. The triangle marks were still in the gravel, fainter now, like they'd begun to fade, but still there. The dents on the cab roof undeniable. You don't get clean indents like that from hail. They were shaped, measured, placed. That's when I noticed something else. My GPS. It had reset. I hadn't touched it, hadn't unplugged it. But now it was asking me to set my language and region again like it had been factory wiped in the night. I didn't even want to think about what that meant. Instead I climbed back into the cab, started the engine, and eased out of the lot like nothing happened. The road back toward Denver was quiet. I passed 2 other trucks, both headed the other way. I thought about flagging them on the CB, just for a voice, just to hear someone say something normal, but I didn't touch it. The idea of hearing static again, that voice again, sent a cold shot down my spine. I kept telling myself, get back to the city. That's all. Just finish the route, park the rig, go home, sleep. Maybe I'd wake up and realize it had all just been a dream, a stress hallucination, a breakdown from too many hours on the road and too much caffeine in my blood. But deep down, I knew better. Because when you've been a trucker long enough, you know what's real. You know the difference between nerves and danger. And I've had engine blowouts in sub-zero temps, whiteouts where I couldn't see 10 feet in front of me. Sketchy rest stops where guys lurk too long near your cab, but nothing ever felt like this. Nothing ever followed me like that. Nothing ever watched me like it. Knew me. By the time I hit I-70, traffic was picking up semis, SUVs, morning commuters, civilization, and still, I kept checking the mirrors. Even in daylight. Every time I switched lanes, I caught myself glancing at the sky behind me. No lights. But that didn't mean it was gone. When I finally got home that evening, I thought about telling my wife. She met me at the door, arms around my waist like she always did. She asked how the run was. I said it was long, told her I was just tired. She believed me, kissed my cheek and went back to folding laundry while I showered. I stood under the water for a long time, let the heat soak into me, tried to wash it out of my skin, whatever it was, but I couldn't shake it. That night, I lay in bed staring at the ceiling, replaying every second. The lights, the breathing over the CB. The pressure on the roof, the hands, those long, impossible fingers pressed against the windshield. At one point I got up and checked the windows. Nothing. Quiet suburb street, porch lights and distant traffic. But I still couldn't sleep. Over the next few weeks, I tried moving on, took a few shorter hauls, stuck to daytime runs, kept close to familiar roads, but it followed me. Not the lights, not exactly, but the feeling. It's Like whatever I saw that night left a mark. Little things started happening. Sometimes when I was driving at night, the radio would lose signal only when I passed certain stretches of road, always the same places. And always dead silence, no static, no feedback, just off. My dashcam started glitching. Files would corrupt for no reason. Entire hours of footage just vanished. And once, parked outside a loading dock in Idaho, I woke up to find new triangle marks in the dirt behind my rig. Same size, same spacing, no one else had parked there before me. That was the moment I knew this wasn't over. A couple months later, I met a guy at a truck stop in Nevada, one of those real old school drivers, face like leather, voice like gravel. We got to talking, and I don't know why, but I brought it up. Not the whole thing, just enough. I said, "Do you ever see something follow you on the road? Something that wasn't a vehicle?" He stared at me for a second, didn't blink. Then he nodded, didn't say anything, just slid a folded piece of paper across the counter. It was a sketch, 3 circles and a triangle. I asked, "You saw the lights too?" He looked at me and said, "They don't follow everyone, only the ones who see them and keep going." That line stuck with me. Only the ones who keep going. I've stopped driving nights since then, switched to regional routes. Less lonely stretches. No more passes between midnight and 4 a.m. but sometimes even in daylight I catch it. Not often. Not for long, but I'll glance in the mirror and see that same faint glow in the distance. High above the road, keeping pace, not chasing, not revealing itself fully. Just watching. And when I blink, it's gone, but the feeling lingers. That weight behind my eyes, that pressure in the air, and I know whatever it was out there in the hills past Craig, it never left. Some lights don't want to be followed, they want to follow you back.